Dear student, today I am going to start the one of the important lecture on the introductions of the comparative government and politics. And this is the important papers of the Masters of Art in the Political Science. And when we talking about the comparative government and politics, here is two important terms. One is government and the second is important politics. So how you differentiate between the government and politics? When we talking about the government, that means ki they are some kind of different system of the governance. Somewhere the elected governments, and especially when we're talking about the governments have some kind of the powers, and that power is legitimate powers. And second parts of this paper, that is the politics. And what is politics? That means ki politics for gaining of the powers. There is some kind of the internal competitions within the political party, within the peoples for gaining of the power. And politics is basically doing the some kind of the for the societal managements, some kind of the distributions of the wealth of the nations. So here, very important paper of the political science, that is comparative government and politics. Here, important thing, that is comparative. That means ki we are doing this some kind of the comparisons, compare between the two things, two issues, two periods, and this is the core themes of the comparative governments and politics. And today I am going to elaborate basically about the introductory part. That means ki there what is the meanings, how you see it. So come to the next slides of the these important things. That is all the comparative government and politics, especially, is a field of study within the political science, and that focus on comparing different political systems, structures, and functions across various countries. These academic disciplines seek to understand the similarity and difference in how governments operates, how political power is distributed and exercised, and how policy are formulated and implemented. That means ki this paper is very important parts of the political science, and that is focused, main focus of the comparative government and politics, that is political system. That means ki when we talking about the political system, we have the different kind of the system in the whole world. Somewhere the two-party system, somewhere the one-party system, somewhere the multi-party systems. So this is the kind of the uh, political party who are engaged in different regions, different country of the nations. There is a number of political party. That means ki like the China, where one political party engage for the gaining of the political powers. Like the UK and USA, there is two important political party who are engaged for the gaining of the political powers. Some nations like the India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, there are more than two political party are involved for the gaining of the political powers. So these are the some kind of the political system. Another is that is the structures. A structure of the governance are also not the same at the universal level. Somewhere the political system based on the democratic setups, somewhere maybe authoritarian system, somewhere maybe a structural democracy, somewhere substantial democratic setup, somewhere the liberal democracy of setup. So these, and somewhere the also called the parliamentary system of governance, somewhere the presidential system of governance, and functions across the various country. Suppose there are two country, but both have the same kind of the structure and some kind of the system of the governments, but their functions is not equals, not the similar between two country, maybe different, maybe same, but these are the study conduct in the especially the comparative government and politics. These academic disciplines seek to understand the similarity and difference in how governance operates, how political power is distributed and exercised, and how policy are formulated and implemented. That means ki in the government, especially the comparative government and politics, what are the similarity and difference in the different level of government setups, and how power are distributed, how they are exercised in the formulations of the policy and implementations part. Next come to the key aspects of the comparative government and politics. That means ki what are the important positions of the comparative government and politics. First important aspects that is comparative method. This is a very simple. That means ki when we talking about the system approach to compare political system by identify common themes, a structure, process across the different country. That means ki when suppose we select poverty, environmental issue, women empowerments, gender discriminations. So these are the common themes, and we can also select the structure of the governments like the presidential system, parliamentary system of governance, role of the civil society across the country. So this is the very important aspect that is called the comparative method. That means ki scholars, teachers, researchers, they are doing or engage in the research, especially in the systematic approach, and that is a called the compare. Basic thing is compare. Second key aspects that is the called political system. We have the different kind of the political system such as democracy, authoritarian regimes, parliamentary system, presidential systems, federal system, and unitary system of government. I am elaborating brief about all the things democracy. When we talking about the democracy, that means that democracy is a very popular form of the governments, and people are actively engaged in self governance, yeah, self governments, and there is some kind of the accountable governments, popular governments. There peoples have some kind of the equal rights. There is no discriminations on the basis of wealth, educations. So these are the democratic set of the system of governments. Second parts of the government's political system that is called authoritarian system. That is authoritarian system of the governments. That means that people have some kind of the less power in compared the democratic system of the governments. Persons who are making the decisions, all the things. Another kind of the system of government that is parliamentary system of governments. Like the India follow the parliamentary system of governments. That means that in the parliamentary system of governments, mm, head of the institutions are elected, and prime minister is the elected head of the government, and he or she is the responsible to the parliaments who are formulating the governments, those persons who are elected in the parliamentary systems. That means who he or she must be elected in the parliament system, and after the sum, they are come to the part of the government sector sections. This is the called parliamentary system. Another kind of the presidential system of the governments. That means before the elections, people know he or she become the president of the nations, and the presidential system is comparatively to the parliamentary system of governance is more stable, and they have some kind of the less accountable towards the parliaments. So these are the different kind of the system of government that is called the parliamentary systems and the presidential system of the governments. Next is called the federal system. When we're talking about the federal system, that is distributions of power between the unions and its units. When we're talking about the units, that is the area. Like the India has the 29 units, and the powers have distributed like the state list, concrete list, and central list. And this is the very important things. The power has distributed among all the level of the governments, like the central governments, state governments, and third tier of government that is called the local institutions. So this is the very important system of the governments. And last one that is unitary system. Unitary system that means there is no distributions of the powers. And unitary system is possible only where a nation, states in the terms of populations or area is less, where unitary governments, unitary system of governments are followed. So these are the political systems we can compare in the political system. Next important aspects of the comparative government politics, that is the institutions and governance. Analysis of political institutions such as legislatures, executive, judiciary, and their role in governance, including the study of electoral systems, party and interest groups. So this is also be called the institutions and governance. When we're talking about the institutions, that means ki we have the different kind of the institutions that is called the divisions, yeah, division of powers, separations of powers, legislature, executive, and judiciary. These are the important institutions for delivering of the goods and services, and their role in the governance. And we have the also some kind of the including the study of electoral system, party, and interest group. Interest groups, that is the civil society groups, their role is also important in the providing of the governance. Next slide, or next important aspects of the comparative government and politics, that is political culture and ideology. Exploring of the values, beliefs, ideology that shape political behaviors and decision making within the different society. That means ki when we talking about these kind of the society, we have the different kind of the political culture. When we're talking about the political culture, that means ki there are two important stakeholder. One sector that at the bottom level there is mass, and the top level that are exist of the statements. Sometimes we call politicians, and both have the different kind of the political cultures. When we're talking about the political culture of the masses or the bottom level, that means ki people behavior toward their state, how they are reacting, how their participations in the government, how their participations in electoral politics. These are the behaviors or cultures of the political system. Same like on the top, like the politicians who are delivering the good and services, how their thoughts or orientations. And when we're talking about the ideology, we have the major three kind of the ideology in the whole world. Basically, when we're talking about the on the party lines, right political ideology, left political ideology, and center political ideology. When we're talking about the right political ideology, they are basically tendency towards the centralizations. They are focusing on the historical glorifications. They are focusing on the some kind of the market orientations, economic liberalizations, and all the things. But when we're talking about the left ideology, they are focusing on the socialisms, a state. They try to make or strong some kind of the state institutions. They are giving the importance to the educations, women empowerments, labor, and all the things. And third important ideology that is called basically the balance approach, yeah, center approach. That means कि a mixers of the both kind of the ideology. Next aspects of the comparative government and politics, that is the public policy. Public policy is very important parts of the comparative government and politics. And when we're talking about the policy part, that have the three important segments. That means formulations, implementations, and evolutions in different political contexts and impact of each policy on the society. That means that they are also a study what are the major impact of the program or policy on the society. Another kind of the prospects of the comparative and politics, that is called a global perspective. That means that comparative government and politics is not focused only on the within the nations or between the two country, but sometimes also a study on the global perspective. That means that when we're talking about the global perspective, that is the international issue, like the international migrations, international refugee issue. Sometimes we talking about the climate change. Sometimes we talking about the environmental issue. So these are very important sectors where comparative government politics are involved in finding the some kind of the solutions and some kind of the knowledge sharings. Next important aspects, that is called the methodological approach. That means use of different kind of the methods, that may be qualitative, quantitative, case study, and cross-national comparisons. That means the comparative government and politics is not a stick to one methods of a study. Like they have adopting practices of qualitative analysis. That means the merits and demerits of the different kind of the institutions, their roles and all the things. Comparative government politics also focus on the qualitative. That means the number. What are the numbers? They are comparing the like the populations, which country is larger compare largest number of the populations, largest number of the peoples who are discriminated by the states. So these are also called the quantitative analysis. Case study is also one of the important significance or part of the comparative government politics. That means on the basis of some kind of the regime, some kind of the period, some kind of the area. So these are coming under the case study for a particular kind of the issues. And this is very important part of the comparative government politics. In addition to that, it's also cross nationals comparison. That means that this is not a stick within the nations or between the two nations, but also a stick to the more than at a global perspective. Now come to the last important part of the comparative government politics. Comparative government politics is crucial for the understanding the diversity of political experience around the world and for assessing the strength and weakness of different governance systems. It helps scholars, policymakers, and citizens alike to gain insight into how political decisions are made and how society are governed and how political changes happens across the different cultures and contexts. That means here we can conclude the sessions through the in the comparative government and politics. Comparative government and politics is one of the important parts of the political science. And in these sections, basically scholars, researchers, they are focusing on the compare between two things, compare between two regimes, compare between the two period. It's maybe historicals, it's maybe sometimes between the two kind of the political system, maybe two types of the governance systems. And this is very important things. Sometimes comparative government and politics is not only rigid towards the within the nations or between the two nations. Sometimes it's also focused on the global perspectives, and this is very important things for the comparative government and politics. So we can say that comparative government and politics is very significant for the understanding the diversity of political experience around the whole world and for assessing the strength and weakness of different governance system. There may be some kind of the strength and sometimes maybe have some kind of the weakness. And we can find these kind of the strength and weakness through the analysis, uh, through the compare by the comparative government and politics. And it's help scholars, policymakers, citizens alike to gain insight into how political decisions are made. That means that after the study by the scholars, policymaker in the comparative government politics, these decisions are made for the further kind of the good governance. And this is political change occurs across the different culture and the context. And this is very good practices for the coming periods. Thank you for this lecture.